What's going on, guys? It's Danny here, and this is Priest versus Warlock. This is from a dueling tournament I played recently, and I'm going with my standard PvP and dueling shadow spec. And the Warlock Cavitas is playing this Affliction Destruction spec with Shadow Burn and Ruin. As always, I will play our duels, but I will say stuff before and after the duels, like how I approach the matchup or what plan I have in mind to beat the Warlock. You know, for the other priest friends out there that were waiting for something like this for a while. So real quick, in terms of itemization, I always want to have good amount of intellect against the Warlock, good amount of mana because there is a lot to dispel. And this time I'm wearing the rank 14 staff instead of the rank 14 dagger and offhand, because it gives 41 stamina, and I wanted that because of how much burst can he do potentially. We are doing 2 duels, so in the first one I use Eye of Mome and Shadow Reflector. Eye of Mome, it's really nice against people with resistances, and something very important as well for the resistances of the pet, because I want to fear it every time I can. Just because when I know that the pet is CC'd, I can shield right before big damage is about to land and he will not be able to dispel it insta. Or I can be ultra aggressive on the Warlock. And the Shadow Reflector has different uses. Reflect big damage or to protect yourself from getting feared, so you can continue the pressure. Which is one of the best uses of the Shadow Reflector I found, to be honest. And here is my first duel against the Warlock. Oh man. Ooh. So sometimes they can be very annoying with their fear, and I should have done what I said before this duel, to use Reflector on one of the fears, and I would have killed them earlier, faster. The way I used the Reflector was more like for safety, to not get silenced by the pet. Sometimes it's not possible to reach the Warlock, to fear him, and I would prefer to fear just the pet. And I would prefer to stay at a distance. I can't explain it very well, that's why the duels are nice to show us an example. But my playstyle against Warlock is sort of like ins and outs. If I have fear, I will be closer so I can try and fear when I need it. If it's on cooldown, I will stay at range, so I can outrange stuff. The Shadow Bolt, the further away I am and I see it coming towards me, I can shield right before it lands to absorb the damage. So generally preventing, if you can, the Warlock from shadow bolting or shielding the shadow bolts and dispelling the dots, you can minimize a lot of the damage you are taking from the Warlock. So another advantage to stay at max range is you can outrange the coil exactly when he would like to throw it at you. And the coil makes you run, so maybe it will make you run even further away. And they rely on the coil a lot because it cannot be trinketed and it could be their finishing move. And if you play the entire duel very close to the lock, you're more vulnerable to their burst. They could do like Shadow Bolt into coil, into another Shadow Bolt and Shadow Burn, and in the meantime dot sticking, it can be brutal. Before the duel, same like against the Shaman, using Levitate and Fade adds additional buffs that the Fell Hunter can dispel, so it's like a shield protection. In the second duel, the Eye of Mom would have been ready, but he didn't seem like he had that much shadow resistance. Plus his Shadow Reflector is on cooldown, so I decided not to use Eye of Mom trinket for spell penetration. The Goblin Mortar is really good trinket against ranged. It also has huge radius, so it's possible to mortar stun the lock and the pet. Good Warlocks will have really good pet control, and they would have it away from them. Just so when you go to fear, you don't fear both, or when you nade, you don't nade both. And the second trinket is the Burrower Shell from AQ40. It's a shield that's not magic, so it cannot be dispelled by the pet. Pretty nice little defensive item to use against lock, since my Shadow Reflector is on cooldown like his. Another nice option would be Barov Peasant Collar instead of Mortar, and they add up a lot to my damage. And here is the second duel. Insignia is not bad either sometimes, because of all this fear spam. I should have naded him here before this fear was even casted. So annoying with the fears. It was on cooldown actually while he was casting the fear. Nade was on cooldown. A couple of things about Mindflay. If the Warlock uses Curse of Tongues against you, that delays the cast of your Grenade and Mind Blast, but Mindflay is channeled, so it does not get affected by Curse of Tongues. And another thing that you are starting to see a little bit into play, and I do it a lot more against other classes, if you see a Mindflay that's barely channeled, like not even a tick, most of the time that's a rank 1 Mindflay. Just clicking and cancelling a Mindflay rank 1 right away is already enough to apply the Shadow Weaving debuff. You would have to reapply Shadow Word Pain if you use a spell damage trinket. From the Shadow Weaving it automatically increases the damage on the current dot on your target. And of course it can proc a nice blackout stun. And sometimes people interrupt or silence at the very start of your cast, because a lot, if not most casters, actually fake cast in the middle or towards the end of their spell cast, which is a good play of course, but a good caster will sometimes fake cast at the start, sometimes at the middle, and this way you are more unpredictable. It's good. And it works well especially against someone that you duel a lot, because when you duel the same person, eventually you get used to their playstyle and how they fake cast or how they interrupt, if they are a class with interrupt. So I have also baited a lot of silences and interrupts with a very short rank 1 Mindflay. So here is my second duel against another Warlock, Sabery. He played with the Affliction and Demonology spec, which I think has less chances to beat a Shadow Priest, but this was still a fun, cool duel. Winning a duel does not mean you did everything perfectly. It reminds me of Dota 2. Winning a match does not mean you made no mistakes. You can still learn even from wins. This duel should not have been this close, because I let dots stick on me too much. Against the previous Warlock, you saw how much I was dispelling them. I was full coiled with 3 dots. It can be really bad. And also because of the Nightfall talent, every tick corruption can give them an instant Shadow Bolt. And another little thing I could have capitalized on, I didn't even pay attention to the pet, but when I summoned the Bar of Peasants, they went to the pet, not to the Warlock. But with the damage done from the peasants, maybe one Shadow Word Pain would have been enough to kill the pet. Something I didn't mention until now, and it's because I actually didn't do it, to go out of Shadow Form and heal. I do it when I have to. Dropping Shadow Form against a caster is not as bad as against a physical damage dealer. A good time is if you get locked in Shadow and you lost a lot of HP, or when you are out of the range of the lock spells. You can just cast a couple heals, but most of the time no renew, because remember the pet can dispel it and it can be a big waste of mana. I normally like showing lost duels as well, because there you can analyze even more what happened and learn. But like I said, you can learn from your wins too, because you can always do better. And there was no duel loss of a priest versus lock from the other priest from the tournament either. But one way I have lost to a Warlock is taking too much dot damage, or him getting a Shadow Bolt or 2 cast. Then I try to heal, the pet silences me and locks me on a heal, and then I just die. But like I mentioned in this video, when you learn to shield the Shadow Bolts, or prevent the lock from casting them with Fear, Silence, Grenade, you should be fine. And this is the Priest versus Warlock one. If you play Priest, I hope this was useful, and hopefully it makes you better at playing against Warlocks. And if you don't play Priest, well, I hope this was good and fun to watch. Thanks a lot everyone for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, follow my Twitch stream, I stream on Twitch live. See you in the next video.